Hello all, welcome to our next episode from TeamLease. This time we have come up with an interesting topic, employee retention, essentials for changing times. I'm just thinking, oh, employee retention, what a timing to say. With all the performance appraisals around the corner, I think this is an important topic which everybody will look forward. To have the conversation with us, we have three of the industry experts from diverse backgrounds. We have Ms. Sophia from Titagarh. We have Mr. Eshwar from ITW Chemin. We have Mr. Amit from Netafim Irrigation. So it is better that, okay, we will take their self-introductions, then we'll get on to the discussion topics. Ms. Sophia.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I'm Sophia, who has experienced over last 3 decades, comprehensively, and have consistently driven strategic initiatives which align with the organizational goals, and we enhance overall business performances. My extensive background spans into gamuts of HR, be it talent acquisition, workforce management, employee development, OB, and employee wellness. And throughout the career, I have had the privilege in collaborating with leading multinational enterprises. To begin with Putney, Mastech in UK, DCOTG has a start point as a JV between Mastech, IBM, Barclays, JP Morgan, Siemens, and a little stint of Accenture. In my role as head HR, I've successfully led diverse teams. I've implemented transformative HR policies and fostered a culture of continuous improvement and innovation. And my approach is deeply rooted in understanding and addressing and evolving needs of both the businesses and its employees, ensuring a harmonious and, additionally, my tenure also has been into academic advisor and coach for a while in the last few years. That was again a beautiful experience where I got an opportunity to shape and get equipped with the management where it started with like 250 offers a year and spanned out to be 3,500 offers. And from Aditya Group of Institute, it has now become Aditya University. So wherein I thought after, a good span of 5+ years where my knowledge sharing and retention for them again was not that lucrative what it would have been in the first 2 years. I stepped back and now I'm into a different world of manufacturing after a long stint into IT. So I'll try my best to put a complete combo of both the worlds into this topic. So thanks so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Sophia. Great knowing you. Yeah, Mr. Eshwar.
Yeah, hi, morning all. I'm Eshwar Subramanyam, and I bring to table equally 3 decades of experience into HR, predominantly manufacturing. That's a sector which I really love. And there was a brief flirt with the service sector, but then came back to manufacturing because I found that, still those people who emulated various theories are still there somewhere hidden behind the machines and all. Okay. And I started my career with in the eastern part of India, primarily working for Usha Martin, one of the largest wire and wire ropes company, and a brief stint with Electro Steel Castings Limited. Moved to down south, went to Tuticorin, worked with the Vedanta Group at Sterlite Copper. Came back to Hyderabad and worked with Tecumseh, one of the largest manufacturers of compressors. They had 2 facilities in Hyderabad and Ballabgarh in Haryana. And that was where, that flirt with service sector started, moved to Vodafone Idea. But I think the deep love was with manufacturing. I again came back to ITW Chemin, and I'm here for the last 17 years. A wide kaleidoscope we have seen from being a management trainee to reaching to this place. It's a journey, and I'm sure this journey can be penned. Likewise, everyone can pen their journey. The 3 areas that I am currently, I would say, obsessed or focused is invariably DE&I. Manufacturing sector is grappling with that issue of how do we increase diversity and inclusion. And that's where even retention plays a very important role. The topic is of interest basically because of that. The second area is, human resource business partnering with predominantly the sales and the ops, because that's the 2 combination which gives the dollar to the company at the bottom line. Looking at areas of initiatives and all, would be out of place to tell that retention is on the top of the mind, even when I'm talking to you, because we had a challenge yesterday, and our mind is still working on some good ideas to steal from or know from to implement so that we address that issue. I'm sure it would be a lovely discussion talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishwar. I really like the word flirting.
Yeah. I'll stop now.
Okay, great. Okay, Mr. Amit.
Thank you so much. Greetings of the day, everyone. And I think Subbu seems to have kept a criteria of 3 decades of experience for all the 3 panelists. Incidentally, I also have the 3 decades of experience, and fortunate to be serving, as a part of HR professional, HR students since I graduated and post-graduated. And I really feel myself blessed that we are in a profession that we get our salary, and nowadays handsome salary, for serving people, and we take their blessings also. And I think blessings are priceless when we get that. And I think those things keeps us moving every day morning. And I've been fortunate to work with one of the finest corporates in India, like Reliance, Arvind, Intas Pharmaceutical, which is in pharmaceutical. I also worked for 5 years in a startup, IT startup, which was my pivoting from manufacturing to IT. And then after 5 years, I realized that I better be in manufacturing. So I returned back to Atul, which was again a manufacturing complex near Valsad. And then since 2015, I joined this company called Netafim. So we are a Orbia Group company, which is a 12 billion USD group globally, and I take care of people function of Netafim India and Orbia India. So before joining this company, I never realized that what we eat every day in the plate, what goes behind, getting that food on plate is so difficult, so hard, and the farmers that they put in their, hard work behind this. And I think I still consider myself very fortunate that me and my team here take care of those 1,200 plus people who serve the farmers. So I think this is something very exciting journey for me for last 9 years here, and looking forward to this interesting discussion which revolves around attrition, retention. I think all of us would learn together on this. Thank you, Subbu.
Thank you so much, Amit. In fact, I thought that, okay, we've been able to get people from diverse backgrounds, but then now I'm actually getting to know that, okay, each of you have got some diverse experience into it. Great, Amit. Great. And just to give a short introduction about me, I'm Subburathinam. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer from TeamLease. I also handle the business verticals of a couple of larger portfolio from TeamLease. And for today's session, I'm going to be your host and the moderator. I'm so privileged with this. In fact, I actually want to start my first question from the point which Amit actually indicated. 3 decades of experience is actually connecting dot for all three of us. Now, just to look at overall what's happening currently in the scenario, specifically in the manufacturing domain, or maybe I would actually say what are things that are happening. We had industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. So in simple terms, it was like industrial revolution. Then it was like absolutely IT revolution. And then now we are living in an absolute digital revolution world. Now, with all these changing things in the last few decades that are actually happening, how do you see retention? So this question, I want to keep it at a common level. Maybe I just want to take your views for about a couple of minutes from each and everyone. Then we'll get on to the specific topics. So how do you see that retention plays a role over the decades? What are your views on that? Maybe I'll start from Amit.
Great. I think that's an interesting question. And when you were asking this question, I was just reflecting in my mind that the very definition of retention, I think, has overgone a sea change over last 3 decades. I mean, if we just recall our parents, for them, probably this word was not there in the definition because they join a company and retire from a company. So, attrition, changing the companies probably were not the vocabulary those days. And but the way things have changed in last 3 decades are, I think, phenomenal. The way we moved from landline to pager to WLL phones to the mobile and now what satellite phone. I think the same thing has happened with retention. Where again, because it has changed with the opportunities increasing, there is always a skewed demand supply. It's we being fortunate in India that we have a demographic dividend. There is a lot of supply of skilled labor, but at the same time, demands are changing, ever changing. I mean, demands are changing faster than we can create the supply. because of that, I think we are at a junction where we have number of people. It's not that we don't have the supply. The challenge is the skilled supply that we need. And I think that is where all of us are struggling when we say, I mean, if you open any job site, you will find at least 500 jobs listed there. At the same time, you go to any opening where there is a government opening job, you will find thousands of people queuing up for the job. So, I mean, there is something that we need to do right, and something is not going right in the area of retention. And that's where, I mean, my thoughts are currently moving around, how things have moved from single company to a multiple company is another thing. Now we are going where people are moonlighting, where, one person is doing 2, 3 jobs. So forget about, single company throughout life. Now people are doing same 3, 4 jobs in a given point of time. So, I mean, that's a very interesting dynamics that are, evolving. That's what, my initial thoughts on this. So.
No, thank you, Amit. As you rightly said, okay, yeah, few decades back, whether the word retention was there, yeah, interesting point. Maybe let's take views from Sophia.
So again, it depends on how we want to look at it, and I would want to put it again classified into 3 different generation groups. So retaining people with say 15 plus years of experience, the methodology that we need to think or design and implement versus the methodology for 0 to 5 years or 7 years. And I would like to put them into 3 different brackets. And for all 3, I think it's a very different way of designing the retention. So for maybe under 5, where there is so much of emphasis on the digitization and the flexibility in terms of work-life balance that they are looking at, vis-a-vis people with more than 15 years experience or plus that, the kind of stability that they want to see in terms of their own skilling and engagement in terms of different departments. So I think within one organization itself, we cannot apply the same yardstick with the different skills. And when I say skills, it is proper skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled labors. So it varies, and it's completely organizational culture driven. For example, if I have to talk about our own organization, the strategy that can be applied in shipbuilding cannot be applied in the rail stock industry vis-a-vis the wagons. So all 3 have a different flavor, all 3 have a different outlook, and for retaining people at different level, how we identify them to be the star performers is different. So that's my take.
No, great insights, Sophia. In fact, we were actually talking about, okay, less than 5 years, how people who have spent less than 5 years, people who have spent greater than 15 years. Yeah, completely different perspective, because it's not only the industrial, the decades that we were actually talking about, but currently, as we speak now, how experienced people are actually there with us. And great, Sophia. Maybe we'll take insights from Eshwar.
Yeah. As 2 of my panelists were actually telling, I traveled through the galleries of my memory 30 years back and imagined myself sitting across VM Raleigh. He was the general manager operations of Electro Steel Castings Limited, and he was exactly doing the same thing, trying to stop me from leaving Electro Steel, what I, after 30 years, do to do my people and trying to convince them. He pulled out a document and told me, Eshwar, this is Electro Steel's plans. This is the future. This is what you're going to have. We are going, at that point of time, it was, yahan se jana hai. Okay. I don't know now. When I go back, I don't know whether it was a foolishness or what. The company is still there in Kharda. The company has grown. The company has expanded. It has added people. But there is something which makes people, either try a different thing, look for another opportunity, or the company would have missed. And now, 30 years after that, I'm doing the same thing, talking about the same challenge, talking about the same problem. And still we are trying to figure out the answer and answering that. Why are people leaving and why organization is not able to retain them? There are advantages and disadvantages. As I said, multiplicity of generations are working in any organization. You have a Gen X and you have a Zillennials now. They are actually what talking to. Everyone has a very different take on work. The definition of work has changed. For Gen X, it has still remained loyalty, hard work, over 27 hours working in a day and all, it has remained. For the other, it is what's the deliverables? Am I giving taken care for the work that is being asked from me to do? So lots of variations have come into this one factor of how to retain. And then why retain? Because every organization is functioning on product service. Now, if it is people dependent, then invariably retention is on the top of the agenda. But if the product or service is speaking for itself, unfortunately, it is not. So what happens is retention definitely becomes important. So as we go, we need to see the nature of organization, the complexity of the workforce, composition of the workforce, the very business itself. Okay. Animation industry would love to see more fresh blood coming because they come with ideas. Okay. Because they survive on new ideas. They survive on new things. A deep-rooted manufacturing industry which has a process very well defined would not like these experimentations on a day-to-day basis. So if someone with that ideas come into or walks into a manufacturing company where everything is fixed, he would find himself not aligned, and he would love to immediately jump. Vice versa, it is the other side in all. So there are multiple reasons why it is important, and my take is an analysis of what industry you are, the composition of the workforce, what is it required, and why. Most important is, why do you want to retain? That has to be very clearly defined. And once done, and I think the initiatives follow actually from there.
Thank you, Eshwar. I think you are actually setting a platform for the overall discussion, because we just spoke about overall retention, how it has been for the last 3 decades or couple of decades. Then you are now setting up the platform for, okay, what's in it? Okay, why retention? What do we do? Just in fact, one of the points that you actually touched upon is, if it is a people dependent, the retention plays a key role.
Yes.
If it's actually so I can resonate with certain stuffs, what is actually currently happening. Say, for example, a role which can be substituted so easily. Retention as a practice, I've not actually seen much. For example, all the frontline in manufacturing assembly line, because that's actually a monotonous job that actually go. For example, a sales colleague who is a star performer, we don't want to lose them, right? Because they actually bring their idea of creativity. They have their strengths in terms of great. I think you touched up a very important point, Eshwar. Now, just taking a cue from that particular point, again, back one more question to you. With multi-generations working in nowadays in the industry, for example, earlier, maybe 2 decades back or 3 decades back, any profile, you will have the similar kind of a workforce.
Yeah.
There's an age group of, say, anybody who is like, say, manager and above, you will actually have 45 years and above people.
Yeah.
The moment you are a general manager, then you will actually feel that, okay, you're already 55 plus years. And that's how earlier things were actually perceived and taken. Or maybe that was something that was visible. Now, today, you are actually finding a multi-generation workforce, somebody who actually completes a prestigious degree from a premium B school, or then directly they actually come in and then get on to a general manager level. And there is another person who's like a 55-year. With all these multi-generations coming in and in a different mode, how do you actually see retention factor coming for such profiles? Because retention is a common terminology, but then you have different multi-generations working in an organization issue. So I'm just trying to get a little more detail into the point that you actually highlighted.
Yeah. See, again, when you have different generations actually in a room or in an organization, each of their needs are very different. Gen X he wants to actually retire peacefully and go off. Whereas zillennials, they want to experiment. They want something new, something action happening. So you need lots of projects where you keep them engaged, you channel their energies and all. Whereas in between are sandwiched who, on the one side, they are able to see the Gen X, and the other side, they are seeing the zillennials who are growing fast. This is the Gen Y, which is actually the Gen Y is sandwiched, not the Gen X. Gen X is already on the left-hand side. The Gen Y is sandwiched because they see lots of opportunities organizations are creating for the zillennials, because if you don't do that, they are not with you. Okay, they are restless. They want something new, something to happen fast, quick and fast. Okay, Of course, not compromising on the basic values and all of organization, but they want something fast. So your initiatives should be actually targeted at what group you are wanting to retain. That definition of, I'm sure everyone would agree that you don't want to retain the 110 people that we have, all of them, but you definitely want to retain the 80-20. That critical core mass, which is actually, keeping your organization going. That doesn't mean that, you don't care about the others. You don't want a higher attrition in there also. Who to retain, why to retain, how to retain need to be very clearly defined. And once these are defined, your initiatives can actually match to what we are talking about.
Great, great. Amit, Sophia, any specific point that you would like to add to this, but which Eshwar highlighted?
Yeah, definitely. So, we can further categorize this, wherein we are talking about the skill levels and specialization. So, what is the high skill role? What is the low skill role? Experience and institutional knowledge. So, where are the veterans coming from, or the newer employees coming from, and what is the impact on operations? So, whether they are critical operational roles or whether they are support roles. Also, in the whole same line, the cost of turnover. So whether it is a high cost vertical that they are into, or a low cost vertical, or a median one, and talent pipeline and succession planning, again here, whether we are talking about the future leaders and in what kind of future leaders, so high potential employees, whether they are high potential from a functional role point of view or from the leadership point of view. And if they have to be replaced, so is it like a position replacement? Is it a creative new invention of position that we are talking about? And the targeted retention strategies that we have for the critical and the high skill roles, compensation plays the biggest yardstick. So to what extent do we want to use that yardstick, and what is the kind of messaging then that has to have? And most important, I think, is career development, where I see what is coming to me in the next few years. Like you said, 30 years ago, your reporting manager then knew what should be given to you as a roadmap. So something like that needs to be induced into the new blood that is coming in, wherein there is no clarity at this point for them. It is like, I'm performing, you give me my value, and you give me immediate recognitions and stimulations in terms of different lounge memberships or whatever it is. You give me reward now. Whereas our thought process, I mean, our generation would say, give me something in reward and which I can take away at the end of it. So designing constantly something which is into a different framework, and balancing the retention with flexibility is something that we need to highlight or look upon.
No, I think designing framework point very interesting, Sophia. Maybe let's actually listen from Amit as well.
Yes, in fact, it was very interesting when Eshwar and Sophia was talking. So I was trying to put it into two brackets. What we are talking here is whom to retain and then how to retain. I think these are the two questions probably we are trying to, deliberate on. So coming on the first question of whom to retain, I think if we look at, and if I relate this to our famous bell curve as a part of, performance management, I think we have some answers lying there. Like we normally follow 20, 70, 10, or, depending on the organization, 20, 60, 20, you follow different curves of bell curve on the right side, left side, and the middle one. So I think the ones, those on the right side, on the higher bracket of 10% or 20% high performer, I think they are a clear lot which we want to retain. The one who is on the another extreme of left side, I think all of us wish that they move on with the good luck from our side to some other organization and find out things which they like most. I mean, I don't see that they are not good, but they are not fit for us. So probably they need to find their calling and need to move on. The ones who are in between are in a journey where it is organizational responsibility that how do we take them to the other side of the curve and not on the lower side of the curve. So that's there the role of LNOD and development comes in. So that this is one way of looking at whom to retain. Another way, if we broadly bifurcate them into the functional skills and behavioral skills, to my mind, when I say functional skill, a technical skill or a manufacturing where things are, set, processes are very laid down, things are relatively easier because, generally in manufacturing, the manning is, a kind of insurance manning and not a position manning. What I mean by that is, you can quickly, with the training, you can quickly replace the person who is holding the position because things are mainly driven by machine, automation, processes, etc. But when it comes to the services part of the industry, where the functional skill plays a huge role, because apart from the technical knowledge that one has, which normally with advent of technology and education sector, most of the people have the same set of knowledge and exposure. But what differentiates is those softer skill part, the behavioral skill part. And I think if we, and it's very interesting, if we plot people whom we want to retain, I think the majority of the lot would have a probably higher curve on the behavioral skills and a softer skill compared to functional skill, because I think functional skills are trainable. With AI and with the repetitive nature of jobs, those things can be quickly turn around. But I think the behavioral and soft skills, either one has or one doesn't have. I mean, I mean, still we need to find out the medicine which can, somebody can just pop in those medicine and we have someone nicely trained on a soft skill. So I think these are the areas, and this is the who part of it. I think how part is again interesting, and each organization has to find the ways, because when we, the moment we talk of how part, as my colleagues mentioned, the age, the need, what challenges them, since Eshwar was mentioning the zillennials, I think their whole retention span of themselves is very low, because that's a mobile generation. They quickly want to move from one screen to another screen. If they don't, they feel anxious. I think same thing happens with the job also. If they're stuck to a job for a little longer period, I think they are not rest with themselves, because they feel, either they are missing something or they are not contributing. So I think that's an interesting things that we need to handle. But broadly on who part, I think things are quite clear on in our mind, because the moment we address who, the how also automatically, pops in, is what I'm looking at.
And I would add to it, we have an added advantage because we know them personally and professionally, because by now we have kids of that age
Correct.
group. So we
Correct.
see them
Correct.
at home how they are, and
Absolutely.
and then you see them at work how they are, and immediately you can relate,
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
the hidden of them and what is the showcased of them.
In fact, our kids tell us that you are a Facebook generation and we are a Snapchat generation. I mean, things don't remain more than 24 hours in their life. I mean, Facebook, you have things updated there, and in Snapchat, it automatically goes in 24 hours. So you don't even have to worry about it. So that's their reference points. I mean, you can see the difference in even looking at the things and things those we post on social media. I simply, when I talk to generation here and the young ones, they ask me, sir, are you on Instagram or Snapchat? So I said, sorry, I still need to learn that. I am on Facebook. I said, oh, then, probably we'll miss your updates. I mean, they give me a message that you are now old. You need to, grow up and get into Snapchat and
They
Instagram.
and they make us have the FOMO, so the
Exactly.
FOMO is more in us than them.
And
True,
even
true.
Subbu, if you really see recently concluded IPL, if you look at, if you want to study retention pretty closely, IPL Hyderabad,
Absolutely.
because from where I come to, the
Mm-hmm.
first match we won was under David Warner. Okay. And we made it to the final. And again, when we are talking about today, it is Pat Cummins who is there. So if at all retention was, you can see different people. I see a complete change in the complexion of Hyderabad team.
Right.
Complete from all those, and I'm sure that's the same from all of them. And everyone tried their best, apart from bidding for the money part apart, they tried their best to see that, they will be able to retain it. Some
Yeah.
cricketers definitely belong to our generation also in there. But then you can see the same thing replicating there. The Gen X who are playing, the Gen Ys, the Zillennials who just cropped up from somewhere and playing. You could see rotation of roles, rotation of, captaincies, vice captaincies. You could see multiple things actually happening. If we look at it, same thing replicates in organizations to a different degree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
also debate who to retain. They also debate why to retain. Okay. And then they eventually, when they are zeroed in on who and why, how is again a matter of different capability of the organization, how deep the pockets are, how initiatives they can take, how big the organization is, multiple units, you can always promote somebody to make him a business unit head. If it is a very small unit, then it's a challenge of its own because of the layers and all. These complexities crop in when it is there.
In fact, Ishwar, that's an interesting analogy. Look at the same, example of Hardik Pandya. The one, I mean, there you can clearly see the functional skills and the behavioral and soft skills.
Absolutely.
Same Hardik Pandya in a different environment with his functional skill could flourish.
Yeah.
Probably, something needs to be worked on the behavioral and the softer skills when he moved to the Mumbai Indians. And I think it's like, we say in Gita, the same Arjun, why he lost, when he was fighting a different battles. He had the same ammunition, he had the same, hands and legs, but somewhere he defeated, somewhere he won. So I think that's an again interesting analogy to look at. I mean, the same person to change the environment, the functional or a softer skill, which plays an important role, and I think the whole outcome changes.
Correct. Exactly.
So
In
here
fact,
I have to add a point here.
yeah,
This
Sophia.
is the internal retention part of it. But look at the driving force, that is the audience. How the through audience, acceptance or the retaliation, the whole thing was blended.
Playing on the mind, yes.
Yes. So the way Zillennial started, with the not participating in the color theme or the t-shirt, I mean, the brand. From there, then people at our age level also got into that fire. So they are the ones who created that,
Narrative.
retaliation.
Those narratives were created, yes.
Yes, and it was such a national impact, that was so visible, and the fire, without even touching us, lit into us and spread around.
Yeah. No, I think, in fact, I think before even me actually thinking about the next question to actually discuss whether retention is good, whether do we need it for all, I think all of us have actually come to a conclusion, okay, actually what we need now. So that's a great point. In fact, some of the examples that we have actually shared here, specifically the IPL or the Zillennials way of actually operating model, very interesting. And the moment when we actually apply that, then we have the answer coming out, okay, whether do we need to retain everybody or actually whether do we need to retain the right people. So I think great. Amit, I have the next question to you. Now we are now talking about the retention. Okay, just I will slightly inversely reverse it. Attrition, right? So obviously the retention as a factor is coming out to actually control the attrition part. But do we need to have a zero level of attrition? And if retention has to be only for selected, then are you okay with some kind of an attrition? I just want to pick up your thoughts onto it, Amit. That has a correlation to retention as well.
Sure, Shubha. Absolutely. I think it's an interesting one because retention is another side of attrition. I mean, the way you manage both has an impact on the outcome. So I think my thinking is zero attrition, I think, is not something which is desirable. And as I said, we have the, everybody is not same. Like we are not, the corporates are not like a communist organization where, everybody is same, everybody is paid same, everybody does the same thing for the, you do whatever, you get the same amount of money. It is not like that. So there are performers, there are normal performers, there are average, and there are low performers. So I think, and I'm saying each human being has a strength and his or her own beauty to deliver. Sometimes, people are misfit in the organization because of various reasons, because of their not getting the right opportunity at the right times. And those are the people who unfortunately fall in that non-performer category. I mean, I don't like to brand, employees into a performer or a non-performer category. I find more suitable term like a fit or a misfit. Someone could be a fit in an organization, or someone could be a misfit in an organization, because over last 3 decades, I have seen, some employees are, those who are misfit in the one organization. When they move on to the other organization, they deliver a phenomenal result. So I sometimes wonder, what was wrong? The environment was wrong, or the situation was wrong. So I think that's a matter of research and debate. But this misfit category needs to move on. And I think that's the one which has to, we need to help them. In fact, to be honest, in our organization, this misfit category, we actually counsel them and we find solutions for them in terms of outplacement. We actually help them find the opportunities. We give them a time of 6 months to 9 months, and in the corporate jargon, it is called PIP, performance improvement plan. But we still call them like, for the right fitment, you need to look at the organization, because the moment you see, each word has a value. The moment you say performance improvement plan, you are indirectly conveying a person that you are not performing and you need to improve. So that affects the morale of the person. So rather than that, if we change the conversation and if we say that you are good, but you are not fit for our requirement, so you need to find something which is fitting your needs. And by that counseling, we try and help people to look their calling in the ecosystem because we are in agriculture sector. So in agriculture, when you look at the domain, there could be seeds company, there could be fertilizer companies, that could be we are like in micro irrigation. So, and somebody is more suitable for an R&D kind of role or a say BD, and then people do amazing jobs. See, what happens is this reduces the heartburn of kind of helping them move out, because telling them someone to just because you are not good, go out, has a different connotation, and helping them someone to look out for an suitable opportunity is different. And I'm proud to say that because of this kind of approach, we have a zero legal cases, even while we work on those misfit cases and help them outplace somewhere. And they are happy. I mean, they are still in touch with us. They communicate with us. They feel proud being part of Netafim for whatever years they work, and they become loyal to us even when they leave the organization. I mean, there is no, I would say, ill feeling about the organization, because it happens. I mean, sometimes my calling is different and I am in a different organization. So I also have moved jobs, say in 1.5 years sometimes, where I felt that, probably what is being offered to me is not something I can deliver, or I'm not finding it interesting. So that does not put a person on a bad light. That's the way I'm looking at it. So I think attrition, and let us put it like a design attrition or a planned attrition, definitely it should work, and it should not be a zero attrition, because then we are stagnating. Anything that becomes stable to a level is a stagnation, and stagnation is against the growth. So I think we need to have some level of attrition, is what my take, Subbu.
No, I think well articulated, Amit, because the misfit category doesn't fall under the actual retention. That's absolutely bang on. In fact, I can correlate many things that actually comes to my mind, and each of us will be able to actually understand, okay, when there is a misfit person sitting in a particular team, how, because of that particular individual, how the team gets actually pulled down. And if you don't understand and course correct it, it's going to costly for the organization. In fact, not many people actually understand why they are retained, Amit. In fact, I think that's an open one that I actually want to leave it here. Maybe I'll take your views as well. Because everybody thinks that, okay, for example, Subbu as an individual, yeah, no, I am an individual, I spent 5 years, so I have to be retained. No. Subbu brings in some kind of expertise in a skill, and therefore organization is going to get benefited. If I'm in a position constantly developing it, enhancing it, then organization will take care of me. If I understand this, I think the retention as a word will actually go well with everybody, and people will understand their role. So some quick pointers now on this. Maybe I'll pick it up from Eshwar. Around this topic, the people skills part, Eshwar. You would like to add anything more about onto this, specific to this particular retention model, which Amit asked, and we just
Sure.
narrow down.
Strangely speaking, attrition and retention are strange bedfellows. Okay. So you have to talk about one, you can't leave the other. That's how it happens. And where does this misfit, what Amit was talking about, comes from? It starts actually from the hiring process. If you are making a distress hire, that I need this guy who can actually run this machine. That's what I am not looking at anything. I am ready to throw any money. He has to do me this work. There is no room, no scope for asking those soft questions of, does he really like this? But at that point of time, money might be something which he would be attracted to, and he, takes it. I was just thinking when Amit was talking about, I have 28 Form 16s lying in my home, but I have moved 6 companies and I don't have a 6 role documents to see how my role has progressed. I may be a culprit too, but then if I look at that document, I would see that it has progressed in that way. I started as a trainee. This is what I was doing. This is what I'm doing now. This is what. Now, why I should not do the same thing for the person who is actually coming and ask the thing, instead of asking me, show me your CV, I should ask him this question, can you show me your role document of your previous company, which tells me what you are supposed to do? We
Right.
only see a static CV, which is prepared by many agencies, and this is more glamorous, and we get attracted to, and then we take it. So hiring is the first start where you actually can address this to a very big extent. And distress hiring brings that role misfit, what he was talking about. Skill he might be having, but reluctantly he is, but he wants a job. I have a need. I have to see my machine running. I can't see it stopping. So I am ready to throw anything on the table to get that person. And later in the bell curve, I see this very gentleman on that side. Is a debate which happens. So both attrition, is it needed? Yes, it is needed. Some part of it, it has to definitely flow. That only gives way for the new generation to actually come in with thoughts and all. And attrition, why it should only be for, a few retention? Sorry, I stand corrected. Retention. I was thinking, why shouldn't the organization think of retaining me or retaining anyone? There definitely could be some things which are there. So why does the organization exist? What is required for the organization to tick? The people come at a later stage, and in between, we need to define which are the roles which are very critical for this organization to run, and then map it out, and then identify. If we are able to build, if it is skill driven purely, and if you have a solid training program, you need not worry about retention, because you are continuously building those skills, kind of a thing. You are picking from ITIs, diplomas, engineers, training them, taking through a process. So you are never worried about, I need to retain, because you have already put what IT calls it as a bench. They are already there. Manufacturing, incidentally, has not been able to emulate that process of bench because of various reasons of cost and all. We don't have that luxury of looking at it. Absence of bench forces us to retain that guy at any cost without asking him this very question: are you liking this? I am only seeing that for me, the person has to do the job for the organization. But this question of, are you really liking this job? Are you really loving it? And if we start having this kind of a conversation more and more, let me tell you, both attrition and retention will become good friends, actually.
Great insights, Eshwar. In fact, you actually connected misfit category of Amit's statement to the wrong hiring part. I have some kind of a comment, but before me actually commenting on it, I would like to take feedback or insights from Sophia as well onto this, because she is also coming from a where we actually have predominant manufacturing experience. She also has a rich IT experience as well.
Yeah.
Sophia, your views.
I would just say that we need to add third element here, the third most important ingredient, and that is the attitude. So I have the best premium skill. Okay, I know I'm key, and I know I am the rider. If I phase out right now, the project is going to be doldrum, and I take a beautiful advantage of this at a critical point. I say, my peer so and so, his salary is higher than me. I'm unhappy about it, and therefore I want to, quit. This is a very ongoing practical experience, mostly into the IT world, wherein that is where is to nip the thing in the bud is. We need to eliminate that, and I stand strong and have taken actions in place where immediately do man-to-man marking, have shadow built up resource, like we emphasize about the point of skill, wherein put in the process in such a way, or the whole documentation in such a way that one can pick it up from where, but through one happy to go attrition, send a message to people that value your work, focus on your career and on your giving, rather than seeing what is the other person giving, at what cost he is giving, and I should be an person to take advantage. So somewhere I think I want to emphasize the culture. So the culture that is coming, the greed culture, is something which, as HR professionals, we need to be has fortress guarding, and creating that and awareness to the stakeholders, because the business heads immediately come in, impulsion and say, no, this person is key for me. Kuch bhi karo, isko retain karo. Wherein, we have to put our foot down and say that in the group dynamics, this is not acceptable. What is important, along with the skill and the knowledge, is the attitude. And we as drivers should be focused on that. That's my take.
Thank you so much,
Subbu,
Sophia. Yeah, Amit. Yeah, Amit.
I have something interesting to add here when Eshwar and Sophia was talking about. I think the reflecting question is, what are we retaining? I mean, are we retaining a person or a skill set? And answers to both, I think, has an interesting outcome. And I think Sophia rightly said that the onus is, I think, on us as a HR professional, that when it's a, and then we devise systems to address such problem, and then we try and kind of put it under the carpet under the beautiful names of career planning, succession planning, and things of those sorts. But actually, if you look at, dive little deep, the root cause of career planning is the need of retention, and the root cause of succession planning is attrition. But what happens, conveniently, we change the position. When I say we as a role holder changes the position, we forget about doing the career planning of our successors. Like when we were juniors, I'm sure most of us would have experienced that we look up, that there is a traffic jam, and if something moves up, then only I will move up. So that's a question of my career planning. And I feel that my boss should think about his succession, and he should look at me as a successor. But I conveniently forget, when I become the role holder, I feel I am going to be here for eternity. And I don't care about the career planning of the fellows. When I'm saying me, I think this is a very, very, and there are very few people who understand the kind of sensitivity of this aspect. And of course, this needs to be handled very sensitively, because I'm sure the moment you talk to someone as a succession planning, person becomes insecure. So one needs to give that person a safety net, that when I am talking of your succession planning, does not mean that I am planning your retrenchment. Unless and until one creates his own successor, one would not move, is what my experience is. Like, fortunately, whatever progressed I could do in the life, because while working, we could create our successors. So when there is an opportunity, management would always like to give an opportunity, provided you give them a confidence that, look, the show will continue running even if I am not there. You give me other opportunity. That's how I grew. So I'm sure this is a very delicate balance that we need to look at, and also check what are we retaining. If we are retaining a person like a showpiece or good to have, I think there are challenges. If we are retaining a skill, it also needs to be taken care that how do we create those successors that next time we are not in that fix that we have no option but to retain. I mean, it is something very delicate balance that we need to strike, in this whole succession, career planning, attrition, retention, game. That's what I feel.
Yeah, in fact, we have actually covered a complete 360-degree, Amit. In fact, starting from hiring, the course correction has to happen, which Eshwar highlighted. The
Yeah.
attitude in which the person actually comes up for a performance discussion, and then what you actually think. Then we are actually planning for a succession planning, so that things are actually taken care. It's like we are completing the end-to-end circle. It's a great having this particular conversation, Amit, Sophia, and Eshwar. Now, there is specific point which Sophia which touched upon, that okay, somebody comes with attitude when yeah, this is what it is. Then most of the time, actually, if you see the root cause, the expectation or the understanding of the role actually goes for a toss. There, instead of the role that the person has actually displayed or what skill set the person displayed, that is moved away. They put themselves in the first.
Yes.
Oh no, I am the critical resource. So that is where most of the problems actually starts coming in, and because of which they don't understand that okay, because somebody who spends for 5 years doesn't mean that okay, they have 5-year experience, correct? Because
Correct.
what they have actually learned and how they have groomed themselves and what they have to move to the next stage, they don't understand. And if they get to know, even with a 2-year experience, they can actually possess a 5-year experience and move on to the next level. And this is exactly what has been looked on. Usually most of them miss, and they get into the aspect of okay, no, why I'm not getting retained, or why I'm not getting a career progression plan, etc. So I think great points. I think that is actually beautifully coming out. Before we close the session, I just have one quick, simple, interesting question. Retention at what cost? Yeah. maybe I don't want to give any kind of alternate answers. It could be a culture, people, or organization policies. So maybe your views, maybe a quick 1 minute views from each of you. Maybe let's start with Sophia.
Okay. I would say retention at the cost of not designing our succession or the career roadmap well. So if you really put, we have the matrices, we have the whole theory in place, right? That's why we have the bell curve also, where we have to strictly adhere to. We are seeing it for last 3 decades now. When GM Motors got it way back, I think in '94, that was like a something big. Hollow bell for us, but today it's such a, normal nuance practice. So everything is in place, but if we put all the methodology into real, processing, I think what we will finally be using is the weeding out that is supposed to be a healthy thing into the system. That's what I would want to conclude. But again, the onus is on the HR folks to ensure that we become the catalyst to first do the goal setting, have the KPIs, have the proper mechanism to do the feedback, the healthy feedback. Let people be in place wherever they are, at whatever roles they are. Understand their value, understand their drawbacks, and accordingly keep a healthy check into the system, so that we know that what is lagging in us to contribute, because again, and then the onus on us to ensure that if the person has done more than what is expected, rightly awarding that person through the PMS system. So uh, retention at the cost of doing our HR role perfect.
No, I think you also covered the end-to-end aspects of here, because when you actually have the goal setting, the person, are they actually punching it as a text, or are they understanding it? Because the moment when someone internalize it, nobody will actually miss it. The biggest problem that happens is, oh, I just typed it, but during my appraisal, my boss will take care of me. Oh, yeah, irrespective of my performance, okay, I will expect this. That's one of the, and because of which failures happen both the ends. I didn't set the right expectation, it's my issue. The person has not understood, and it is actually costing me in retention and efforts and time, and costing money so much, and the number of hours that we have spent on the person for learning, etc. Yeah. Amit, your views, Amit?
Yeah, in fact, I have a slightly different view. Like, when the cost of retention, I was just reflecting that, we are in a corporate world, and the reality is, business precedes sometimes the reality. And what I define, like, if your retention is at a gunpoint, that means you have no option but to retain. Uh, because of the business compulsion, sometimes we do, but I think then our role is to make sure that we create alternatives in a defined period of time, where it doesn't become a perennial nature of gunpoint retention going forward. Because the moment it goes into that domain, then you start compromising with the values, with the things which you cherish more. The softer aspect of retentions get compromised, because then you have no option. And at the end of the day, organization retain person because not the organization is married to a person and vice versa. The organization is married to a skill set of a person. So if it starts pushing someone to a corner, I think that cost is very dangerous, and that is something that I think our role comes. And of course, when we say our roles, we has to become a catalyst. I think Sophia used the right word, that we need to be a catalyst with management and kind of influence them that this is something will not sustain over a period of time. I mean, we understand there are business compulsions. When there's a business of crores of rupees is at a risk, we can't give a gyan of how things should happen. That time we have to address the challenge, and then at an appropriate time need to influence our role as an influencer to the management, that look, this is something will not sustain. And that's where we would need their support. The business has to lead these initiatives that we would take. We can be always a catalyst, and we can always generate that environment, those opportunities where we would seek support from business to be and we are the partners to business. I mean, we are there because business is there. The business doesn't revolve around us. everybody revolves around business. I think that's where we need to come from. That's how I look at this, when we talk of cost of, attrition or retention, whichever way we put it.
In fact, you touched upon a very important problem of every HR, that okay, business keeping a gun on the head and saying that, okay, fine, I want to do this, despite actually sharing so many other things. Yeah, I can clearly understand, Amit.
It
But
becomes
great,
feedback
thank,
for us. That is our learning,
yeah, yeah. Eshwar, your views.
Yeah. I think collectively what we have heard so far, if you really see, if retention is not seen as a planned strategy, the dangers are much more. If they see it is a desperate way, as Amit said, pointing gun, okay, sometimes it is required, but people are very clear. If an organization is trying to invest in somebody to retain, and if the people perceive that, yes, it's a right decision, the multiplier effect is very high. But if it is seen ad hoc, that okay, just because a person is going, he might join a competition, we don't, but there is no plan. There is no plan, there is no thought process, there is no discussion. The dangers of retaining are actually much more.
Absolutely.
But business, as Amit touched upon, we have one location where it's extremely difficult to find a resource. Okay. Now, irrespective of, then I would not put that yardstick of all those bell curves and all. I know that it's very difficult for me to put a person in that place. Then what happens is, but even that, the broader population has to know why it is actually being done, the degree of difficulty you have in actually finding a person there. Whether it is a retention strategy, whether it is your R&R, whether it is your values, sometimes they also bring a very close. The gun point is actually what someone somewhere compromised with the values.
Yeah.
He compromised with the values. That's why he came and he said that, look, I am actually going, when he saw organization at a vulnerable point, that is where he pulls out the paper from and tells that, look, this is what it is. That's not actually the correct approach, because in that case, an individual is also, what I would say, exposing himself, but organization also knows it is at a vulnerable point where the employee is trying to, take that pound of flesh. But in a normal circumstances, if we have a strategy where everyone knows A is a high potential, B is a good, rock solid performer, and A will invariably get. If you remove ad hocism, Subbu, let me tell you, to a great extent, you address both retention as well as attrition.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In fact,
That's what my take on that.
Beautifully
thank you so much.
summarized.
Yeah, well summarized. In fact, most of the time, as you rightly pointed out, Ishwa, people don't understand the potential arm of it. They will actually say, oh, yeah, this person has been a performer. But how did this person perform? That's a different question. Now, can you actually, if he's a performer, then can he transform another geography or another region or another person standalone? Or has he actually got some lucky that, okay, he got into it? So that is where the potential of the person comes in. And if that is actually not monitored and captured, I think that will actually get into a problem on the setting up on the right retention strategies.
And it is seen by the talent, all the employees, it is seen by them. Whom are you rewarding? Whom are you trying to show that extra favor and all? It is seen. And
in
irrespective
fact,
of
Eshwar, there is a the myth of confidentiality that goes around.
it's
We
not there
feel
at
that
all.
things are confidential, but I think that's the only myth that we believe in. Everybody knows everything, so it's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that is why that's how I started, right? We are in the right time frame, which is the performance appraisal time. But this is what HR and everybody, we believe that, okay, this is confidential, only them. No, other than HR, everybody knows that, okay, everybody knows everything.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. I think we have come to an end of the session. I think it was great interacting with you all. We started with, okay, how the retention as a strategy has changed over the years with multi-generation workforce coming in. Okay, what are things that we are doing it? And how things have changed, whether it is actually right, is it a good retention, is it good or not, whom to retain, and what are the things that we are going to do. In fact, some of the points that each of you shared are like great. In fact, somebody who listens to this, they need not even actually read any book. That's something that I can actually take away from this particular retention discussion. And there are some topics, like for example, the goal setting or maybe the feedback. Sophia touched upon 2-3 important points. And then Amit, you actually touched upon how the overall scenario of things actually framework done. And Eshwar, in terms of the retention strategy, each thing are again in-depth topics.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think maybe given an opportunity, we should actually connect once again, having a similar kind of a conversation on all other topics as well. I really enjoyed having the conversation and picking up your experience, insights from your experience. It was great hosting you all. Thank you so much, Sophia. Thank you so much, Amit. Thank you so much, Eshwar.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us.